Hello and welcome to Scribes and Songsters. I'm Veronique Mandel. Tonight's guests are a classic example of the idiom, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Heidi Richards and her daughter, Josie Elysia, are both passionate about singing and songwriting. Heidi emigrated from Britain to Canada at the age of 3 and grew up singing in a church choir and competing in a jazz choir during high school. She went on to perform in numerous bands and is now a solo artist and session vocalist. Her sultry vocals range from baritone to mezzo-soprano, perfectly suited to her preferred genres of jazz and edgy rock. Josie has been classically trained as a pianist and vocalist. Her vocal influences, aside from her mother, include Canadian singer-songwriter Fifi Dobson, Panic at the Disco, and Paramore. Angst is one of the themes Josie expresses in her music. Both women write from the heart and use their personal experiences as a basis for their songwriting. On this broadcast of Scribes and Songsters, we'll hear their original music, find out more about their road to songwriting, and how they inspire each other. Heidi and Josie, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you both?
So good.
Good. Thanks.
Now, Heidi, you've got quite an eclectic background. From what I understand, you trained as a dancer. You're a former Sunshine girl. I mean, pretty important.
Right?
You competed in bodybuilding.
Yep.
Worked as a fitness trainer.
Right.
Oh my God, I'm getting tired. And a certified hypnotherapist. That's pretty cool. Do you still do that?
On occasion. It's just I have to refresh now, so it's not as it's not as
Yeah.
memorable.
Did you ever use that on Josie?
You know
Once.
what? Yeah.
Oh yeah? Did it work?
It works.
It did. It's
Oh,
terrifying.
really? Wonder if you could use it on my producer.
Oh, we can try.
So she probably won't buy me wine anymore.
No.
So now, how has, everyone says, everything you do sort of factors into what your ultimate passion is. How does everything you've done factor into your music?
I find it's for me, it was more of a therapeutic type of thing with songwriting. And it's usually honed into emotions. So things that I've either gone through, I'll think about situations I've been in, what that felt like, and then I'll write from the emotions. So it's not specifically about a certain person. Some of them are, I'm not going to lie. But it's always just getting in touch with what was my feeling and what do I need to get out. And then a lot of it is it just kind of comes to me and I just write down whatever it is that I hear in my head. But yeah, so it's a process of just kind of, it's more the feelings behind the actions for me.
Have you written a lot over the years, or have you just started original work?
I started writing in 2018 because I had a friend who committed suicide, and she was my age. And that kind of was, it was just hard to deal with. And especially going to the funeral and everything, then you see your pictures on that's on the screen. And it was just a way to kind of get those emotions out. So that's what got me writing. So I ended up getting a guitar for my birthday that year. And I started playing, and it was 2018, 4 years ago. And then the songs came out, but it was really strange though, because I would go to open mics and I could hear chords in my head and I couldn't figure them out yet. And I would tell people, I'm going to play this song and you'll know what I know and you'll know what I don't. And then eventually I could play a song all the way through. They were like, oh my God.
Wow. Was it difficult to learn guitar?
It's, it's challenging in one way, but I have a really good musical ear. It's just more or less getting your fingers to do what your mind wants it to do. Because really, I don't know who controls who, but...
Well, I know that whatever is controlling mine when I'm trying to play the guitar is not doing a very good job. Right. So now, do you play guitar when you're performing?
I do. So I play and sing.
So you're that good. Wow.
Thank you.
That's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Now, I know that some of your influences are Adele, the incredible Amy Winehouse, Lena Horne, Billie Holiday, and Holly Cole, I'm sure among many. What is it about those artists that have inspired you? What is it you get from them?
It's the voices. Like, I just love that. It just seems like if I sat down with them at a table like I'm sitting with you, that they would be the same. like the same that they are on stage as they are in life. And I think I could have a coffee with them and it wouldn't be this pretentious thing where they'd be like, oh, someone go get my coffee. They would just go get it themselves and probably get mine. Right? Like, but I really liked it. Just felt like everything came from the heart with them. And even like with some of Adele's songs, like it's almost like she just writes what she feels and she doesn't really care how it's received. I mean, it's been received really well, which is fantastic. But I just like that the real stories, the real lyrics, they're just real experiences. With the jazz singers, it was more or less just that whole kind of the passion behind the music, what they could do vocally with their voices, like the scatting, the different tones, the dissonance. I love dissonance. So it was just very inspiring and just being able to learn from them. Yeah.
Now, you've talked to a lot, I rhymed off a lot of women. Are there any male singers who, you would get inspired by?
I do like some male singers. Maxwell has a fabulous voice. I love his voice. I grew up listening to a lot of males as well. It's just, I don't know why I gravitate towards me because I've got a female voice. That's probably what it is. Al Jarreau's been a big one for me as well. I used to love listening to him. He does this great rendition of my favorite things. If you can ever hear it, listen to it. It's incredible. And I taught myself how to sing it. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just totally incredible.
So when did you start singing?
I've been singing for longer than I can remember. It was a way for me even growing up to deal with my own emotions. I would sing them. And I would go from my room and I just remember sitting up there to write a lot of poetry and I would just sing things because I couldn't say what I was feeling because it just wouldn't be well received. But that's kind of how I dealt with it, was music. So music's always been there.
We're going to get to your song in just a second, but I just want to bring Josie in for a minute. Now, I've known you because you were with us at the Mediaplex in the public relations program, and you graduated from there. I'm curious. I mean, you were an excellent public relations writer.
Thank you.
Has there been any influence, or how different is it to go from that kind of writing to something that is, way over creative by comparison?
Mm-hmm. I definitely think that it was a really good foundational background to have. Because with any writing you're going to do, whether it's creative or just very straightforward, you need to know how to research something and how to get your point across quickly and efficiently. And I think the public relations program definitely helped me to learn how to do that with music. Because sometimes I get lost in the words and I can't quite get the point I want across. But that's definitely helped.
That's fantastic. Now, you were saying that that you picked up the guitar. How did the guitar sort of help you get through that period in your life after you lost your friend?
It was just a way to, I don't know. It's just, everything just seems to come together for me. It was very strange because I'd always wanted to be one of those people that could play and sing at the same time. I was never one of those people, so I always had musicians that would play for me or a karaoke track. And that was my dream. But I think with seeing her pass away and then just knowing she didn't get to live everything that she wanted to do. And so it was something where I kind of said to myself, okay, this is something I want to do. And it just sort of made sense. And then everything kind of flowed really quickly. And within a year, I was already playing shows, which was strange for someone who just picked up the guitar.
I agree.
Right.
And so you've talked about how your songs are expressions of your feelings, and we're going to listen to your song. And then when we come back, I want you to tell me a little bit more about what inspired you and sort of what it meant to you. Sure. So here's Heidi performing Love Is at the T.O. Lounge, featuring David Rose on lead guitar and Summit Banda on cajon. Here is Love Is.
There needs those who live take chances, and they fall, they also dear. Oh, weapons strong, they stop so dear. Oh, love is our favorite song, with what's playing on the beat. Now it's real and I'm over it. Every time, but bitter, sweet, like love, oh, love. I said, love, this is love. Where love will be, this is love. Where love will be, this is love.
Okay, what do you sort of feel like when you hear that music?
It just takes me back to when you're in that moment and you really find the person that you want to be with. And just all those emotions that go with that. Because I have an ex. I have a past, right? Surprise!
It always makes great creative writing, doesn't
Right?
it?
But I just remember the relationship I went through, especially the major one. It's just love takes on all kinds of different forms. And that's what I really sat with that song. It was actually a 5 to 7 minute song when it started, and I chopped all these verses out because it was too long. But it's just looking at the different phases of love. Like, love is something that can be really wonderful. And it is wonderful, but you're going to have those periods where you're going to have tears. You maybe don't have tears. You're going to have like elation. You're going to have those memorable moments. You're going to have all these different things where you're really angry, but you're passionate. You still love the person, but you make it work. And so that's what that song is really about, is all the different parts of love. And then knowing that it can all be love, as long as it doesn't go down that sort of awkward path of where it can become abusive. Because that's where my path led. And that's what happened at the split. So I was looking for all the different pieces within that that makes sense in terms of the total package of love for me.
Also, said that you've got into guitar recently. How much time do you spend writing and learning? And I mean, sometimes that can get so tedious. Does it ever get tedious for you?
It gets overwhelming, especially now. It's just trying to find the times. I try to remind myself. I used to keep a journal so I would know if I practiced or not. And when I first started playing guitar, my goal was to, and it's going to sound crazy, but I wanted to have my fingers bleed. And I think that comes from my dance background. When you're on point, it's all about getting your toes to bleed. Once your toes bled, you're good to go. So that was my goal. So I'd play and play and play and play and play till I could barely touch my fingers. And then now it's, I can play all the time. But yeah, I do try to practice at least a couple times a week. Sometimes it'll be for an hour. Sometimes it'll be 2 hours. Sometimes it'll be 5 minutes, depending on time. And then the writing, it just whenever I'm inspired.
So what comes first, the lyrics or the melody?
That's a tough one because I guess it's a bit of both. Because I am taking guitar lessons finally, right? Because I taught myself, so now I'm learning all my habits.
Is it better to go take lessons?
I would definitely say take lessons, but try it yourself first and then figure out what it is that you want to learn rather than, especially as an adult, because there's a lot of things as children that you have time for that you don't have time for as an adult. Yeah.
Well, what about you, Josie? What comes first?
It's interesting. So for Out of My Head, the melody came first, way before the words. But for the songs I'm now writing, the words actually came first. I thought about it more as a mathematical formula, and I tried to approach it that way. Because I found problems sometimes with getting inspiration to strike. It's like I have to just wander out and find it and wait for it. But with this new sort of mathematical formula, like this mathematical way of looking at it, it's kind of speeding up the process of songwriting for me.
That's amazing. I mean, I've so often hear people talk about music and math, and I don't think I've ever interviewed anyone who actually talked about math and music.
Right. There you go.
I trust you, Josie. So, do you inspire each other, and who inspires who most?
Yeah, I would say I'm definitely really inspired by my mom. I used to use a lot of minor chords. My music sounds very sad and emo, angsty. And so she actually got me this cute little book for Christmas and shows all the different guitar chords. And now I'm learning all of these like sevenths and ninths and majors. And it's making my music that much better.
What's the best advice you've ever been given by anybody?
Don't worry about what other people tell you about yourself, because it's none of your business. That was the best thing I learned in my 20s.
What's the best advice your mom's ever given you?
I'd say my best advice is just to follow your dreams, really. Don't let anybody define who you can and cannot be. If you work hard enough at something, you can achieve it.
And if you had any advice you'd give your mom, or have you given her advice?
I think in terms of advice, maybe just it's more so related to social media. I think it's just, just the generational, it's fine. But, just trying to like show her how to do like different things online, like when to post, how to sound, what memes are, the appeal of TikTok and things like that. Because I find a lot of people, they discount the importance of social media. But in this day and age, this is where you find so many of your fans, because you can connect with people internationally. It's not just locally anymore. And you can really only do that through social media.
Well, we're going to listen to your music in a minute. So have you been able to take some of that advice about social media? Because if you're not comfortable with social media, that can be a real sort of hardship.
Oh yeah, no, Josie's been great. Like we actually schedule sessions because I was going to hire someone, and I realized, well, hire my daughter.
Yeah, other people hire her,
right?
Great.
And so she's very good at because she has access to all of my social media accounts, and so she was really good at like showing me how to set up pre-post things, like have them all on schedule. So you just hit the button, and they fly out. But it's also looking at her eye, because I have all these pictures from past, but it's what she sees when she looks at them. And I'm trying to get my head wrapped around that because it's interesting. Like I'm fascinated by it, and it's incredible.
Because she's also an artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's a little bit.
Yeah, I think a lot from what I've seen. And remember, I know. Right? So your debut song is called Out of My Head. Now, that was actually penned during the pandemic. And you said it was a therapeutic outlet to remedy feelings of isolation, mental illness, and existential dread. I have to say, those are pretty intense emotions for the first foray out of the gate. And I'd love to come back and talk a bit about that, but let's have a listen, and then you can tell me what you feel when you hear it and sing it now. Here it is, Out of My Head.
Time is standing still. I don't know how to mend this thing in my mind.
So, Josie, when you hear that song now, what goes through your mind, and have you been singing it?
It is actually probably my favorite song that I've written to date. When I hear it, I'm very much just reminded of how lonely I was during the first part of the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm sure lots of people were very lonely and upset because it was so strange to be in a world where you couldn't go see your family or go see your friends. It was strange. And I think listening back to it now, it makes a lot of sense how I was feeling, especially because as the months went on, I did actually go see a doctor. So I did get diagnosed with like depression, which was something I didn't even know I had until I started taking medication. I'm like, oh my God, I feel so much better. Like, is this normal? Is this what other people feel as their baseline? How did I not know that there was something wrong? And so that song for me, it really hits home. It's just so important to me because without it, I probably would have never known a lot about myself.
During the pandemic, how much time, did you spend a lot of time with your music?
I would say I spent the better part of my day with my music. So I am married, but my husband at the time, he was working in Hamilton. So he was gone most of the week, working as a journalist. And my son was very small, and, you know, kids are great and lovely, but it's not the same sorts of conversations you can have with children as you can with adults. So a lot of that time was spent virtually live streaming, trying to come up with music. This is when I started up doing like makeup online. So it really sparked that creative passion. And so it was a good thing, but at the same time, it was really hard to go through it.
I have to go to the makeup online. Tell me about that.
Okay.
So I hear you've become sort of quite the online guru.
Yeah, you know what? It's pretty fun. I've been doing my makeup online for about 2 years now, mainly on Instagram. I started out as a live streamer. I had to do my makeup every day. And so I would take pictures of it. And then people started to ask questions about it. And I thought, you know what? Maybe this is something that's actually interesting. Maybe I can share this with the world. And so I started posting to my Instagram. And I mean, if you were to start to scroll back to that very first few weeks, it's messy. Like, they're not great looks. It's all disjointed. But now, since I do it every single day, and like I've said, it's been 2 years of it, I've gotten just so much better, just learning different techniques from watching other people and being able to help educate my own audience on like how to make themselves feel good and look good.
That's absolutely, it sounds like so much fun, but it sounds like a lot of work too. So what's next for both of you? Heidi?
I have another release coming out shortly. So, and I've actually, there's one a month. It's supposed to be every month. It's been about every 6 weeks.
Oh, congratulations.
Things, yeah.
And you, Josie?
Well, my first single's coming out on Sunday, and that is my birthday. I'm going to be an old lady.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm just going to continue to keep writing music and hopefully, start to play out in public like my mom does. I'm a little shy.
And do you want to go further with your music? Do you want to make it a really important part of your life?
Oh, I would love to. If I could play around Ontario, Canada, maybe even internationally, it would blow my mind. I don't even think it's possible to get that big, but if I could, and if I would be so excited.
And very quickly, can you see yourselves working together?
We do.
100%.
Oh,
yeah.
you do?
Yeah,
oh, fabulous. Well, congratulations to you both and all the best of luck.
Thank you
so much.
Well, that's all for this episode of Scribes and Songsters. When you have great guests, it sure goes quickly. Many thanks to our guests, Heidi Richards and Josie Elysia. Thanks to our Scribes and Songsters team, producer Liz Pettipies-Phillips, technical producer and editor Gary Glass, social media manager Michelle Fortier, and consultant Brian Sweet. Grateful thanks to Tony Toldo and the Toldo Foundation, and to Neil and Tina Queering for their support. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you soon right back here on Scribes and Songsters. I'm Veronique Mandel. Bye for now.